What if I told you that you could have silliness and substance in one show? You could have something that is like very topical and is very cathartic.
I would say this is crazy. I don't believe you.
If this piques your interest, let me break down the specific storytelling mechanics, the secret sauce, if you will.
Today, Sterling and I are talking about the movie that I saw in theaters, Project Hail Mary.
The dramedy with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford, Shrinking, seasons 1 through 3.
We lightly touch on streaming services, movies in theaters, and the show Scrubs.
Quick shout out to our channel members. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate you.
Now let's get into the episode. After my physics exam, all day yesterday, I was studying. Finished about 8:30, and I thought to myself, I want to treat myself. And I took myself to a theater.
Ooh.
I have not. I'm trying to remember the last movie I saw in theaters. It's Fire and Ash. Avatar, Fire and Ash.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last movie I saw in theaters. And I know there's been really big hype around a new movie. A lot of people have enjoyed it. I've got a lot of praise from it. So I wanted to throw my hat in the ring to see if it was any good. And what I went and saw was Project Hail Mary.
Name is familiar, but I don't remember what that one's about.
Wait, really?
Yeah, legitimately. I'm sure once you start saying words that it'll all flood back to my ADHD brain that can easily just like forget stuff.
So Project Mary was originally a book by Andy Weir, who did another book and movie that people might know called The Martian with Matt Damon. Aha.
Okay. Yeah.
Also a great flick if you haven't checked it out, and great book.
Yeah. And that one, I remember hearing scientists say, like, has really good science in it. So that makes me...
So
I like
Andy
when
Weir
things are a little bit more believable.
Is not a scientist himself, but he bases a lot of his writings in, like, actual sciences. And like you said, a lot of scientists love that he is so close and accurate to the science of these stories. And so this one, no different. Very sciencey, but different premise, and I will only give away what trailers have given away in this.
Okay.
But there is a sun that is dying due to some reason. They see that other suns are dying except this one sun. So they plan to send a few astronauts out that way on a one-way trip to go see if they can figure out why that sun is not dying. We wake up with Ryan Gosling, who plays the main character, which he is phenomenal.
I would love to wake up with Ryan Gosling.
I mean, who wouldn't? What a dreamboat. He is enough for me, so he's great.
He is, yes.
But when he's out there, he runs into another life form that is experiencing a similar issue. They're at the same spot, and they are kind of working together to figure out what's going on. That's all I give. And this is a great movie. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I feel there hasn't really been a movie that has felt like OG cinema. Like, we're going to the theater, we're watching a movie, it makes you feel things, it makes you nervous, anxious, edge of your seat. I haven't felt a movie make me feel that in a very long time. And I'll say Project Hail Mary was a great movie to watch in theaters. It felt like a return to olden day cinema. It's not reliant on CGI. It feels very real, very grounded. And I thoroughly enjoyed the movie.
So you mentioned that there's like another being that he meets up with, and yeah, I think it's well believed in science that there is a extremely high likelihood of life, but there's like that paradox of we should see it, but we haven't seen it. The fact that there isn't any, does that make it any less grounded than, like, I feel like The Martian was a very, even though it obviously we haven't gotten to the point where we can get to Mars, the movie still felt very grounded. Was this a little bit more fantastical since it's dealing with, aliens or something along those lines? Or was it still pretty grounded? Where is it in like the sci-fi range?
So it's very, very sci-fi. I think the meeting of the new being makes it feel a little bit more fantastical, like it's oh, does he exist? And the way that it interacts and does stuff, it does make it feel, that part is a little bit hard to wrap your mind around. But in the context of what we see, which again, I don't want to give too much away about why stars are dying. Yeah. It's plausible, right? Okay, there is plausible reasoning that you would see something like that. So I don't think it ruins any of that. I don't think it makes it unbelievable. There is a lot of science, and specifically there are things that have to deal with the science that I'm going into, which is conservation biology.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. And so this I will say this movie did inspire me. Yeah, it's Ryan Gosling's character is a teacher who works on microbiology. So not quite the same as me, but it is a very similar niche. They talk about different things that I'm actually currently learning about and working on. And so, I don't know, seeing people in the science field getting excited about science and wanting to do more science and learn, and it really did bring out this joy for me that makes me feel passionate about what I'm doing. So I thought it was great. It was inspiring. It like revitalized my excitement to keep doing what I'm doing. And even though my hard test was hard, I was like, well, it was worth it. So I could be Ryan Gosling in a year.
Nice. So what would you give this out of 10?
Okay. Well, my ratings aren't as tough as yours. So as a mark rating, I would give it, I'd probably say like a 9.2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice. How long has this one been in theaters? Like, is it going to be easy for me to still catch it, or?
I think so, because I think it came out March 20th. So it's only been out a couple weeks, but it's like almost towards the end of it. But when I went last night, I went on a Tuesday at 9:30 and the theater was packed. So it's definitely putting butts in seats. This is also Ryan Gosling's highest rated film that he's been in, like the highest rated. So he's been in a lot of fantastic movies, and this being his most his most highly rated one. I mean, I had to give it a watch. I personally think it's his best performance. I think early Ryan Gosling, a lot of his characters felt similar, and he's very like, monotone, doesn't show much emotion. Thinking of like Drive and one that's not as old, but Blade Runner 2049. He's very like serious and doesn't show a lot of emotional depth. And in this movie, he's funny, he's emotional, he gives a stellar performance. So I really did appreciate him in this role and this performance.
Awesome.
So I think you and Don would love the movie. I highly recommend you guys go see it. I would recommend seeing it in theaters. You might not have to see it in theaters. I don't know if that would affect completely in or out of a home viewing experience, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I want to go to theaters for those types of movies to show like, hey, I want more of these, so I'm going to support it with my dollar there.
Yeah, and it's good to see a film do well at the box office and not just afterwards. You know, there was another recent sci-fi one that came out that had big cast members as well. It had Rebecca Ferguson and it had Chris Pratt. That was Mercy. The critics didn't love it, and there wasn't huge turnout in the theaters, but then it has done very well on streaming since. And I don't think that generally is a profitable model that you can like really generate enough money afterwards to kind of make that financially doable. Obviously, there are exceptions. And I want to make it clear with that example, I actually don't seem that interested in, like, based off what I read on it. Not that interested, but still kind of a bummer that it's like, it clearly did get people. It just, whether or not it like couldn't get them to do it in time, like it was already gone at that point, or if people just didn't quite want to shell out the money for it, but they were fine to do it at streaming, which, I don't know, maybe that like encourages streaming services to make more of their own movies that aren't as dependent on the theater model. We'll see.
Which I do worry, because with Netflix making their movies, like the ones I'm thinking of, another Ryan Gosling one, I think, The Gray Man, he's in that one. There's Red or something like that. And they're just like very generic movies. Not like I could see a benefit of movies being riskier through streaming, being like, oh, let's see if this gets eyeballs or whatever. But then there's also the like catch-22 where they just make very bland movies, not memorable, not memorable characters, just your average blockbuster / action flick that doesn't have real depth. I know there's the one with like Ryan Reynolds and The Rock, and they're like product placement their own stuff in the movie. It just feels like an advertisement, and they're flat characters, flat storyline. So I see this other way of streaming movies just not making quality. I don't know.
Yeah, there is, on the other hand, like I did see that with Apple TV, I think F1 did well in the theaters. And it looks like, and that's one of their movies, and it looks like, I think they're considering doing a sequel to it. I do worry about streaming services because I do wonder whether or not they'll want to really focus on indie projects or projects that are, you know, that have like the broadest appeal. And that broadest appeal, I think, leads to kind of like a vanilla-ness and nothing too exciting. I do think that the streaming services do occasionally like to go for an Oscar winner, because they have, you know, Netflix has had an Oscar winner, and they like put it in the theaters just long enough to hit the requirements. Like what?
Frankenstein was nominated.
They had one that I think that won. That it was like a black and white Spanish, I think. I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, I feel like that was so that they could have the prize, you know, to show like, oh, you have to take us seriously. We made a great movie, like a great movie, you know, versus like we are continually making.
I think they've made a couple movies that at least have been nominated. I know. Okay. Frankenstein's been nominated. K-pop Demon Hunters was Netflix, and that won Best Animated Picture this year. I'm trying to think. I thought there was like one big Netflix movie that won, but I don't think Best Picture. Yeah. I can't remember. I don't know. I don't follow the Oscars. Yeah. Lowest turnout for Oscars this year. I got better things to do than watch a bunch of rich people win awards, okay? I'm busy.
I get I do get that there's like a snooty aspect. I do think that there are benefits to prestige awards that push people to make great art for the sake of making great art, and that the reward for that is that, like, even if you don't necessarily make a ton of money, getting that reward generally unlocks doors so that you can do more of that, and you can hopefully make that money. I know that I'll make this a short geeky aside, but the world of board gaming, I think for many years for decades wasn't the most exciting field, with things like Monopoly and Risk being kind of at the top of things. And I think those are games that have issues with them. And then I think it was the Germans with the Spiel des Jahres put together an award with the idea that if they encouraged people to make great board games and give them a reason, of like, there's this thing that you can win, and if you win it, you can get a lot of money because people will buy your game and more publishers will want to publish, all that kind of stuff. And like, the board game industry has exploded since. And I think a lot of it is around that, like, there is a push to make truly great games. It's nice to be able to make good art for the sake of art itself. Like you mentioned Frankenstein, I think the Bride by, Maggie Gyllenhaal?
Yep.
That one has not done well in theaters, but from what I've seen, it is an artsy movie, and it is the type of movie, like, just because its metrics didn't do well doesn't mean that it wasn't necessarily a good movie. Maybe it shouldn't have necessarily been made on that budget. Maybe it wasn't really meant for like that scale, but it seems like she really was trying to make art, whether or not she was completely successful. And I do think that should be encouraged as like the goal of making art for the sake of making art, and that you can't always measure quality of art against like the dollars you get. I mean, if you measure art based off like dollars, Van Gogh's art would have been like crap until after he was dead.
Right.
If he was to measure that of saying like, oh, I gotta stop doing this because it's no good, I can't make money off of it.
And then on the vice versa of that, you get Disney that's like, we're going to make new art, and it's just remake after remake after remake. Oh, Lion King remake made over $1 billion. Let's keep pumping this art out. Yeah, right.
I mean, I feel like that's a little bit less art because like because they have that machine that they're just trying to push out this formula. Like, it doesn't feel creative when the thing that you are doing is, what if old movie that did well, but not cartoon? Like,
but
that's
in the case of Lion King, still cartoon. Still cartoon, but cartoon is real graphics. Realistic right, cartoon. It's
like live action, By
but it's all made on a computer.
CGI, yes, but it's good. So it's like it looks like
they don't even film in location.
It looks like they got real lion actors, like down to the point where like the real lion actors couldn't show emotion because their little lion faces don't have the little emotion muscles. Maybe we should make that movie. That's what I'm saying. It's like there's I don't like the fact that they like so much of their output has been this idea of like, just let's take everything that worked and then let's try and make it live action. CGI is good enough. It's somewhat affordable enough. Like we can do it. So
what did you watch?
So let me start off with this. Mark, I know your time is precious. I know you're working. You're going to school, right? You don't have time to waste on a mediocre show, especially if it has like 3 seasons for you to catch up on, right?
I ain't got time for that.
You don't have time for that. With all that stuff that you have going on, you probably also are looking for a certain like level of escapism.
Sure.
But you do need it to have some believability. Otherwise, you kind of like give up on it. So what if I told you that you could have silliness and substance in one show? You could have something that is like very topical and is very cathartic.
I would say this is crazy.
Okay.
I don't believe you.
So if this piques your interest, then let me break down the specific storytelling mechanics, the secret sauce, if you will, that makes Shrinking more than just a show about therapy. So that you can know whether or not it's worth your emotional investment, whether or not it's worth like the psychological ROI, or if it's just another show with like fake sentimentality.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of streaming services nowadays, there's a lot of great stuff out there, but there's also a lot of just kind of like background noise, and it can be hard to sift through that. I think you can sometimes spend like more time scrolling through Netflix than actually like finding what you're looking for. And then even when you find something really good, I feel like there can be downsides to it, you know, like great like comedy or dramedy, you know, similar to this would be like How I Met Your Mother. I feel like that one suffered from like episode bloat, you know, and so there were some that had a decent number of episodes that like shouldn't have been in there. I don't think that's quite as big an issue in today's day and age, but I do still feel like sometimes there's like season bloat where they don't necessarily, they have like a great idea for season one, but they don't know where to take season two. Mm-hmm. Or even if they get through season two, like as it goes on, you see that like they really didn't kind of have an idea of what they were going to do. And so you, like there's like lost threads. Sometimes like some of the comedies that are out there, if they're not, I don't know if I'm just jaded, but I feel like if I can't enjoy just like a straight up comedy nowadays, like if it's not somehow grounded in a certain way, that it's hard to connect with the humor. So I almost feel like I gravitate more towards like dramedy than just straight up comedy. So I think that Shrinking solve so many of those problems. It doesn't have any of the bloat. It's got a tight 3-season arc, not too many episodes, and every single episode manages to deliver some great like silliness as well as legitimate gut punches. And I think that it even delivers better than, I don't think you necessarily watched, but I think that like as it continues, it's even improved over like Ted Lasso, which was extremely popular dramedy that was also on Netflix.
Apple TV.
Yes, on Apple TV. Thank you. So, you know, and I think that one of the interesting things with this one is kind of where it starts. And it's this structure of like, what if you ground it with like such high stakes because you have an almost unlikable character, like a character that has been through a tough tragedy and has made a lot of terrible choices because of that. So we have Jimmy. He's played by Jason Segel. I'm sure you know him from like How I Met Your Mother.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall. That was the other one I was going to name. Yeah.
I gotcha.
He's a psychiatrist who lost his wife, and his life has fallen apart from that. And the really tough thing is that we see him at an extremely low point. His friends and neighbors have had to not just like support him, but have had to like legitimately step in because of like negligence he's had in his life. He's an absent father for his daughter. You know, he's wallowing in the loss of his wife, even though his daughter lost her mom and she needs somebody there for her too. So it starts off with like such a difficult situation. And, you know, even though it gives you like the reason that has happened, it doesn't make it okay. It doesn't try and make it seem like it's, you know, we understand why he did it because of like this loss. Like they do make it clear that like he's lacking in a lot of things. And I feel like the payoff really works because it starts off from like such a genuine rough spot that he starts from, that like that arc upwards really ends up working for you as an audience member. Next part, I can't continue talking about the show without mentioning one of the other main characters, which is Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford is playing Harrison Ford in the show?
He's not too... The interesting thing is, like, he's actually not too different from a lot of the characters that he's played. But the really cool thing is that it takes that idea and it flips it. Like it takes that, the action hero that we have seen, and Harrison Ford is like 80 plus years old. And so it takes that same kind of character and has him face age and mortality. And
interesting.
So even though he has like a lot of that same gruff exterior, he definitely plays a lot of things like trying to be a cool person. You see that like he does have to deal with the difficulties of his age, the difficulties of his health, and he oftentimes has to make concessions in his life. And I feel like it works so well because it deconstructs and flips his own career. So it's almost like a commentary on himself without ever feeling like a caricature.
Wow.
I mentioned before that like shows over time that they don't always continue as well as they started. And I actually think that this one even got stronger with season 2. And it goes around this idea of like, what if something happens that forces the show or the characters in the show to kind of face one of their darkest moments? And there's a great character introduction that comes with this. We have Brett Goldstein joins the show in season 2. I'm sure you've seen him in some stuff. I don't think you saw Ted Lasso, but he was in Ted Lasso. He's amazing in that. He's also one of the writers on Ted Lasso and the show.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think, so he is a phenomenal actor. You've definitely seen him in Thor: Love and Thunder as Hercules.
Oh, he's Hercules.
Yes.
Okay.
He wears a lot more shirt in this show.
I know exactly who you're talking about, and he will probably never play Hercules again. But that's fine.
They've just left so many dangling threads. The show takes like everything that made season 1 great and does a better job with it. The story continues the arc that Jason's character has been dealing with, and actually makes it like it starts off with like an even worse situation that really makes him have to deal with that. And it's an emotional tour de force. Like this is definitely one of those you will laugh hard, but also have the Kleenex ready because they're definitely going to give you those gut punches. And I think the last kind of important thing is, I think why a lot of it works and why I think that this is such a great show is you've got this beautiful arc that starts, from season 1, goes through season 3, gets wrapped up with season 3. All the characters have arcs in this. They are great arcs. Jason Segel's character is definitely the strongest and most powerful. But I think, in addition to like the great writing, the great acting, the amazing ensemble cast, because it really does have an amazing ensemble cast, one of the important things to believe big changes in people is, I'm going to call it the Breaking Bad method, which is that if you want to see big changes in people, in order for it to be believable, you have to see all the little steps that get you there. I think...
Why did we see Walter White get to where he was?
Yes.
Right? We were rooting for him in the beginning, and by the end of it, you're like, he's a piece of shit. Well, how did we get there? And they show us how he gets there. Yeah.
Where I'm not going to go into it because some people may not be watching the show. You and I watched Paradise, we just finished up season 2. There were some characters that had some changes, and I didn't love all of the character arcs because this is one of the things is I don't feel like I could see when there's a big change. I don't expect that there's just like one moment that just like instantly changes you. I feel like there has to be you have to be ready for that change. Like there can be a catalyst, but you still have to be kind of ready for that change. Sure. And so there have to be like steps to get you to that kind of point.
You're just dabbling in change.
Yes. And I think this one, not only does this not show you all the little steps along the way, but I think that change is very messy. It's not completely linear. Like sometimes that change is like going back a little bit. Sometimes it's going sideways. It's not always little steps forward. The progress is all over the place. And I think it shows that beautifully. It is well written. And so I think it's this like commitment to deeply flawed, relatable characters who are allowed to fail repeatedly, that really ensures that the growth feels earned and really feels like a great, comment on like the human condition.
Is it only 3 seasons?
It was intended to be 3 seasons. So, so they have wrapped up most of the threads with the end of this season, which means that you could watch the 3 seasons of this and feel like you got a complete story and not like you're left on a big cliffhanger and you have to watch season 4. Season 4, they did decide to continue the show. The creator did weigh in on it and say that there is a little bit of a time jump going into season 4. And so I think that will allow for like a soft reset. Not that like anybody's playing any new characters, not like anything has changed, but basically they won't be dealing with all of the same issues because they have wrapped up most of the loose ends. And so with that little bit of a time jump, I think new things will have arisen and it'll be kind of a new starting point for the same characters, in the same kind of setting.
I will shout out that I have seen a couple of the episodes of the first season, but I haven't watched it all the way through. I am planning to watch it all the way through. But I know it's a good show, not based on the episodes I watched, but based on the creator. Bill Lawrence is the creator of Shrinking, and he did one of my favorite all-time shows, which is Scrubs.
Scrubs.
He did Scrubs, the first 8 seasons. And then they did the 9th season that he wasn't a part of. That's why it's bad. And I know they just revised Scrubs.
I was going to say, is he part of the reboot, whatever? I guess it's not a reboot because it's the same characters, but like older.
It's just, yeah. And he came back. I don't think people were willing to come back if he wasn't going to come back because every person that worked on Scrubs says the reason Scrubs was so good was because of him. He's a phenomenal writer, creator. He has this mind. Like I would say, is such an undervalued storyteller. I think he is really good at telling, like you were saying, these great stories, but he's really good at telling these stories with relatable characters that go through hard times and can overcome hard times. And he has a way to write characters and story that is the best. That's why Scrubs is my favorite.
Scrubs is great. I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know if I ever watched it all the way through. Because that was one of the ones that was like on TV, when I was younger. And so I think I saw a lot of the episodes like when they were in the right time slot and I was there. Or maybe I was watching, some of the reruns, and so they're not necessarily
in order.
Exactly in order, So I definitely don't think I saw it completely, but very much enjoyed the show. Love the cast. Especially the janitor is one of my faves.
So I would always recommend going through Scrubs. Scrubs is like one of my comfort shows. If I need to put something on that I don't really want to watch, pay attention, I can just throw that on. It's great. And the one thing that I would recommend if you haven't watched all of Scrubs, but you've seen a lot of Scrubs, just go through the last season, because the last season is short. It was a season right after the writer's strike. Because the writer's strike screwed up season 7. It like ended early. There was a really weird episode that you can tell suffered from writing. And they come back for season 8. And I feel like they knew that this season was going to be their final season. And so the whole season is really aimed at giving closure to all of these characters. And I will argue this till the end of time. I think the season finale of Scrubs is probably not including season 9, because that doesn't count, but the ending of season 8 Scrubs, when it truly ended, when Bill Lawrence ended his run on it, that is probably the best ending of a sitcom that I have ever seen.
Ooh.
They nail the landing. That's why I'm hesitant to go back to this new season, because the ending of that show is so perfect.
For me, it's a good place. I think as they changed things up, I didn't always. I love that they like took big swings, and like every season was a new season, and they had a very different premise that they had to deal with, or like a very different new situation that kind of changed the status quo. And that's a big swing to take every season. And I don't feel like I always loved all of those equally, possibly because, with big swings, it's going to be big hits. There's also going to be big misses. But the way that they wrapped up everything with the finale, I thought was the most perfect ending to such a tough story to come up with. Like, how do you even wrap that up?
Yeah.
The story about the afterlife. And so that's, I don't remember. I don't know if I saw the Scrubs one you're talking about. So I don't have that one as a comparison, I don't think.
I would, because I have seen the ending of The Good Place. I do think The Good Place has a very good ending. I think it is done well. I think it achieves everything that it's going for each character, which is very important. But I also might not have been. I loved The Good Place, but I wasn't as attached to it as you. Where like Scrubs had always been my favorite, and then just. And so maybe this is why it is my favorite ending, but it hits so perfectly. It's so good. I cry every time when I see it because it's really sad. And not sad. It's sad to see the show end.
Sad to say goodbye.
Yeah. You don't want to say goodbye to anybody.
Yeah.